This year, Airbus continues to lead the American aircraft manufacturer Boeing in terms of aircraft deliveries, a lead that appears difficult to overcome. However, in contrast, the 2025 order race has sent worrying signals for Airbus to the point that CEO Guillaume Faury himself has had to acknowledge a hard-to-accept reality. Boeing may have surpassed them even before 2025 comes to an end. So, how did Boeing surpass Airbus? Why, after 6 years of falling behind its rival? Has the manufacturer finally been able to win? Let's find out. Over the past 6 years, the picture of the commercial aviation industry seemed firmly set. In a familiar order, Airbus led in aircraft deliveries while Boeing struggled through crisis after crisis, fighting to recover from a series of severe setbacks. But in 2025, something unexpected happened. For the first time in years, Boeing did not just return to the game. It overtook Airbus on a critical battlefield net aircraft orders. This victory reflected a notable shift in the industry's balance of power, and even forced Airbus's CEO to acknowledge an uncomfortable reality. As of November 20th, 2025, Boeing had taken the lead in net aircraft orders, a metric that directly reflects airlines' long-term confidence. Specifically, the U.S. manufacturer recorded 98 net orders after cancellations and adjustments, compared with roughly 700 net orders for Airbus over the same period. Looking at total gross orders, the gap becomes even clearer. Boeing reached 1,000 orders while Airbus stood at 797. This represents a remarkably strong commercial performance for the U.S. provider, especially when viewed against the backdrop of several years in which the company was widely seen as the follower, rather than the leader. However, on the delivery front, Airbus continues to hold its familiar advantage. By the end of November, the European manufacturer had delivered 657 aircraft, including 72 in November alone, largely supported by the stable output of the A320neo family. The U.S. maker, despite showing clear improvement, had delivered only 537 aircraft, with 44 handed over in November, down from October, consisting mainly of 737 MAX jets, alongside a small number of wide-body aircraft, such as the 787. To understand the significance of this comeback, it is necessary to look back at history. Boeing once dominated the commercial aviation market throughout the 1980s and maintained a clear advantage well into the 1990s. Even as Airbus began to close the gap, Boeing still delivered more aircraft for most of that period. A turning point emerged in the early 2000s, when the European maker gradually gained the upper hand in the narrow-body segment, with annual deliveries of the A320 surpassing those of the 737. Even so, the U.S. manufacturer retained its overall leadership until the late 2010s. Everything collapsed in 2019, following to fatal accidents in 2018 and 2019. The 737 MAX was grounded worldwide for nearly 2 years. As a result, this manufacturer's aircraft deliveries plunged from 86 units in 2018 to just 345 in 2019, while its rival delivered as many as 725 aircraft. From that point on, the European maker overtook the U.S. rival in annual deliveries for the first time and went on to maintain that lead for 6 consecutive years, extending through 2024. Persistent manufacturing quality issues, supply chain disruptions, a prolonged labor strike in 2024, and several high-profile safety incidents severely eroded confidence in the U.S. aerospace giant. In terms of aircraft orders, Airbus had in fact pulled ahead even earlier. From around 2011 onward, this maker dominated in most years with only a few exceptions. By October 2019, the A320 family had become the best-selling aircraft program in history by total orders. The 737 MAX crisis further amplified this trend, triggering waves of cancellations for Boeing and driving Airbus's order backlog sharply higher. By the early 2020s, the European maker controlled roughly 60 to 65% of the global order backlog, and by 2023, the number of European aircraft in active service surpassed the U.S.'s fleet for the first time in history. It is precisely for these reasons that the reversal seen in 2025 carries particular significance. Boeing reclaimed the lead in net aircraft orders for the first time in 6 years. Most strikingly, in an interview with France Inter on December 10, 2025, Airbus CEO Guillaume Faury publicly acknowledged that Boeing is likely to win the annual order race, a rare admission and the clearest signal yet that the balance of power in the industry is beginning to shift. So what has truly enabled Boeing to move ahead in 2025 after nearly a decade of being viewed as the company struggling to catch up? The answer is more compelling than it may first appear. The first and most fundamental reason is the stabilization of the 737 MAX program. While Airbus continues to dominate the narrow-body segment with the A320neo family, Boeing reached a critical turning point by restoring stability to 737 MAX production. After years of disruption caused by safety crisis, manufacturing halts, and intense regulatory scrutiny, 2025 marked the first time the U.S. DICE chamber was able to operate the program in a relatively stable and predictable manner. That stability did more than increase delivery volumes. It helped restore airline confidence, a decisive factor when placing new aircraft orders. By the end of the third quarter of 2025, the McCoker monthly order growth had surged by 161% year over year. It's a clear indication of a sharp shift in market sentiment. The second reason, and arguably the decisive factor behind the U.S. McCoker advance over rival, is the wide-body aircraft. As the global aviation market recovered after the pandemic, demand did not merely return, it shifted decisively toward long-haul routes as airlines sought to expand international networks while improving fuel efficiency. This is precisely Boeing's home territory. The 787 Dreamliner and the 777X became focal points for airlines looking for modern, fuel-efficient, wide-body aircraft with long range. By the end of 2025, Boeing's wide-body order book significantly outpaced Airbus's, with more than 700 Dreamliners remaining in backlog for much of the year as of October. This manufacturer had accumulated roughly 822 orders, the majority of which were wide-body aircraft, around 100 more than its rival at the same point in time. Moreover, in November alone, the company recorded 164 gross orders, equivalent to 126 net orders after cancellations. Most notably, this included 74 orders for the 777X, a program that had long been viewed with skepticism due to repeated delays. Of these, 65 aircraft were ordered by Emirates at the Dubai Air Show, with a further 9 from China Airlines, both customers known for exceptionally demanding requirements in performance and reliability. In addition, 30 orders for the 707 Dreamliner further strengthened the U.S. McCoker position in the mid-size wide-body segment, where its rival continues to face supply chain pressures and production constraints. By contrast, Airbus recorded 544 narrow-body orders and only 253 wide-body orders as of November. This gap clearly shows that the market's recovery momentum is tilting in the U.S. aerospace giant's favor. A major labor strike in 2024 and persistent quality concerns. The company entered 2025 with a single, overriding objective: stability at all costs. The result was a 69% year-over-year surge in aircraft deliveries from the lows of 2024. This improvement sent a powerful signal to the market that the company was gradually regaining its ability to deliver aircraft on time and with greater reliability. Moreover, an intriguing paradox that may be one of the important reasons Airbus's overwhelming success over the past 5 to 10 years became a constraint in 2025. The company's massive order backlog, pushing delivery slots well into the 2030s, forced many airlines to rethink their options. As demand rebounded rapidly, delivery timing became a critical factor, and Boeing, particularly in the wide-body segment, was able to offer greater scheduling flexibility. By contrast, Airbus continued to face persistent supply chain bottlenecks, especially involving engines and key components. These challenges compelled the manufacturer to cut its annual delivery target from 820 to 790 aircraft, weakening year-end performance and to some extent dampening customer enthusiasm for new orders. Finally, this represents more than a statistical achievement. It marks a critical milestone in the company's recovery after years of turbulence. Following a prolonged period defined by the 737 MAX crisis production suspensions and safety controversies, the rebound in orders has helped restore confidence among investors and airline customers, a prerequisite for long-term stability in commercial aviation manufacturing. The primary driver, the strong demand for wide-body aircraft. The 787 Dreamliner and the 777X have not only improved Boeing's long-term order outlook, but have also strengthened near and mid-term cash flow, supported by a 69% year increase in aircraft deliveries. At the same time, incremental approvals from the FAA to raise MAX production rates have laid the groundwork for higher output levels from 2026 onward, reinforcing this aerospace's recovery trajectory externally. US-backed trade and tariff negotiations in 2025 increasingly became part of broader economic and diplomatic packages, enabling this maker to secure major commitments in Asia and the Middle East high-profile. Agreements such as Emirates' commitment to the 777X and Korean Air's $36.2 billion order carried not only commercial weight but also symbolic significance, signaling renewed international confidence in this U.S. provider's product portfolio. Despite these gains, significant challenges remain. Boeing continues to trail Airbus in total deliveries and overall backlog, while persistent supply chain constraints could limit its ability to scale production.